Welcome back, everybody. Let's do some drawing. I figured today would be a really nice time, to do a little bit of a character that I came up with years and years ago, and I did one little comic about the individual. I did like a little taster one for Image Comics, and it wasn't very successful, sadly, but it was really fun doing it. And I was watching a show just now, and the original mask was really similar to what was on it, and I thought, wow, that'd be cool. Actually, I could, have a little bit of a blast from the past and actually, talk about that and do a little drawing. So here I am. So, the character was called Cellar, and I think the whole synopsis was about this female character called Belle, and she owned a little bakery and it was really sweet. But her alter ego, when she fell asleep, was this character called Cellar, and they lived in this little town, and it was very industrial and lots of rooftops and lots of too many chimneys. Actually, it never really made sense, but the comic was just full of chimney tops and old tiles and things like that. So that's how this character moved around the city. So when Belle went to sleep, this character Cellar would awaken somewhere else in the city, and it was usually this little rundown factory building, old mill or something, I can't remember. But it would just fight crime and stuff. And I wrote little stories about him, and did lots of little doodles and ideas and stuff. And a few years ago, actually, I was lucky enough to meet one of the artists I always thought was pretty special, and it was Greg Staples, and he did a lot of the Mars Attack stuff and Judge Dredd. So that was pretty cool, actually. A little bit of a name bomb there. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And he had to judge the comics and stuff, and he did quite well, our little Cellar chap. And I'll see if I can find the original drawing that I went to that competition with, because that'd be quite cool. Maybe I'll put it in the thumbnail if I get lucky, But yeah, he had a couple of different versions, and one that was just this sort of flat mask with this creepy long smile, and then there was another one which was, more of a, I think, very similar to the characters I draw, well, Ayla specifically from the game I've been working on. It's got this sort of this rag that covers his face, just like her, and I always thought that was quite a cool one as well, because I like the idea that he wasn't like not using his eyes, but he'd use a different sort of sense. And I think that came from sort of like the xenomorph. They don't really have eyes, and the aliens, but they can still see, and I always thought that was really cool. So I made up this thing called a reverie, and it really makes sense. But basically, in the little town they lived in, do you know what? I've forgotten all about the name of it, but this little town, for some reason, had a lot of crime, even though it was really picturesque. The reverie was this series of mushrooms and fungi that would grow all over the city, and was kind of like this character's eyes and ears. So whatever was going on, he would know what was happening, and he would go and dispatch the baddies. And in fact, I wrote a couple of little stories, so that might be quite a cool little thing if I could, I don't know, maybe one time if I do a little bit more drawing of this dude, maybe we can revisit it, and actually I can read some of the little stories over the background of drawing, because sometimes me just rambling about cups of tea might probably get old fairly soon, if it hasn't already. But yeah, so I thought it'd be quite cool just to do this today and see where it goes. We can do a few more little comics, and I still need to get back to Spam, the comic I was doing about a month ago now, something like that. But yeah, just thought it'd be a bit of fun. Alright, so there was just two different versions, and sort of the main version. We won't give a mask or anything. We'll just sort of do the whole body, and just so you could see sort of the stature and the size and things like that of the character, because he was never meant to be this massive hulking, powerful character. It was, I suppose, he had slightly stronger than the average person, and he had the reverie that sort of told him where baddies were and stuff. And what else did he have? He was sort of like a spider, if I rightly remember, in that he would have these huge, bouts of energy and speed and power, but he would soon get really tired. I've just remembered he also had a weird teddy bear that was alive, and that was kind of for like comic value. So I don't really remember the reasoning behind it. The bear was always just kind of like this funny little extra. So yeah, but yeah, he wasn't like the biggest character, and in the comic, it was very much he wasn't, strong enough to take on anyone head on. So he'd always have to be almost like, a comic version of Home Alone, trying to figure out ways of trapping the baddies and all that stuff. So it was kind of fun. But yeah, it was a funny little comic, and it's a shame it never really went anywhere. But I suppose that's just one of those things. But that's okay. Right. So on this shirt, he had these like really terrible stitching bits, and one was longer than the other. I think I've got the right side. I haven't looked at this character for years, so I think it was back in 2015, 2014, maybe older than that. So yeah, it's a long old time ago. And yeah, what else did he do? Oh, that was it. So he didn't. His energy, his magic sort of thing, came from a place called the Hollow, and it was basically this old fireplace in this old build. That was it. I remember now. So I will get there. It's been a fair few years, and he would have to sort of keep this fire going, and it was kind of like his energy, and it was like this big steam contraption attached to it, and as long as it was going, he would have enough energy to fight and to save people and stuff. But it was a really strange concept, and I think there was a couple of different renditions, so I might be a little bit off because I don't quite remember. But yeah, quite a cool little character. And I forgot they always had these little patches of fungi and mushrooms growing on him all the time, and when he would sort of, get angry and power up, I guess, very Dragon Ball Z style, these mushrooms would grow more, and then the mushrooms would, grow over the walls and the buildings, and it wasn't so much that he was getting stronger; he was making everyone else around him weaker. I always thought that was quite cool, and that's something that's also come into the game I'm working on as well. So that's interesting. I never really thought of it, but I don't think I have particularly original ideas. I just have one or two, and then they kind of stay with me for years. Just try and get the most out of them, I suppose. And yeah, he always had a little elbow pad on his right side, I think, and then knee pad on his right side, if I'm right. But I can't fully remember. But yeah, I will try and find the old drawings, and maybe I'll stick that on the thumbnail because that might be quite cool. And that was all done. Well, the comic I did for, I'm really rambling today. The comic I did for Image Comics, I did that traditional, and I don't think I should have. I think I should have stuck to. I think I should have stuck to traditional, digital drawing. Yeah, it got there in the end. But when I went to do the little comic book competition years back, that was all digital. So maybe that's what I should have stuck to. But at the time, I wanted to do it, a classic sort of comic, and I'm glad I did actually. I stuck to my guns, and I was like, right or wrong, this is what I'm doing. And yeah, but if I ever was to go back to it, maybe, I never know, maybe I will. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I just thought it'd be quite cool. Forgot what I was going to say, doesn't matter. Yeah, so we had kind of like two modes. So like the one mode, he'd be like in battle, and running around really quick and using the powers of the reverie, this fungi growing sort of stuff, to weaken opponents and also find out where everyone was. And then his other powers used this coat and this old jacket, and I always spoke about it in the comic, how it stunk like ginger beer and what was it? Gingerbread, and I think it was ginger beer and something I can't remember. And it was just this sort of like marker that the baddies, when they sort of got to know this character was getting around and really causing trouble for their business and stuff. Again, I don't know why this tiny little picturesque village had so much so much crime. It was every night, so very odd. But yeah, you would just go around and beat everyone up. Pretty basic actually, but a lot of fun to draw. But especially, I think this is probably where my little love of like fungi and mushrooms and things like that came from, because I guess it comes from that idea that so much fungi is actually connected, and it connects trees and all that cool stuff. And I always thought, that'd be really cool if a character had that, that ability to connect, Anyway, rambling on. So there's this little reverie of little mushrooms coming, and then I thought it'd be fun to draw sort of the back of his coat. So it's fun to draw the back of his coat. I think my version of fun and your version is probably very different, but yeah. So I went a whale of a time drawing the back of a coat, and it was just really Raggedy Ann and a bit of a shambles really, and it's just super ripped and torn and very much influenced by Spawn and comics like that, that lovely long flowing cape, which would take away the fact that I can't actually draw very well a lot of things, so the cape would kind of distract. Yeah, so he had this long cape, and the cape didn't do anything. Well, sorry, the cloak or coat didn't really do anything, but it was the scarf he had, and there was a little bit of a storyline around where the scarf came from and what made it special. But basically, it would be able to work by itself, and it was like sentient, and it was really cool actually. It would just grab and throw people and twist around and trap and stuff like that. It wasn't particularly powerful, but it could be used in a lot of different ways. I actually forgot that he did have weapons as well. So he had a pair of old tailor scissors, even though it was not a particularly violent comic, so he never used them. It was more, for scare tactics sort of thing, and, helping people if they were tied up or whatever that was about. And how would there was a back emblem. How did that work? 1, 2, 3. I think it was like, it went down 1, back up, down 1, back up. And then this one had, I can't really remember how it worked, but something like that. I can't really remember the pattern. I actually have to find it. It's so strange. I can't remember how it is. That's okay. He never wore shoes because I'm terrible at drawing shoes. So he was always barefoot. And what else? What else about him? I can't really remember now. You just like kind of sit and wait and like lure. But yeah, anyway, so his alter ego, or the sort of the human form of him, because I guess he was like animus or anima, I forget which one's which, and he was like the inner feral soulmate, if you like your Hillman stuff. But yeah, he just kind of, when he wasn't in the realm of the the living or the sort of consciousness or whatever, his alter ego was Belle, and Belle had a daughter, and they owned a little bakery, and there wasn't really much more to that. And I think it was just like, I really like the mix of, you got the chaos, the carnage going on with this character Cellar, but then you've got this lovely, slow paced, little shop, doing really well, and going through little struggles of that sort of stuff at the same time. I just always thought that was really cool. A nice bit of light and dark. I always like that. And I had this one really silly homage to like the Hulk, and it was like eventually Belle finds out like her alter ego is, because she has these strange dreams, and she, foresees these things happening. And she's like, what is going on? What is that? And I think at one point she's like, oh, okay, I get it. And somehow they meet in a dream or something. I don't remember. And she gets into a spot of trouble. And one of the really silly lines that was in the comic was like, you wouldn't like me when I'm sleepy. And I always thought it was hilarious, but I don't think it is. Right, so I've got him sort of cradling this little power, what's it called? The stick with the power lines on. What is that called? Oh, good start. There's the boiler going absolutely mental, as per usual. Wouldn't be a video if the boiler wasn't going off on one, would it? Terrible. And we're nearly finished, so I won't start the video just yet. I'm just gonna power through. So apology if it's super loud and annoying. I know, my bad. Have to remove the boiler. Sure, that's easy enough, right? So yeah, there's the power line, lots of little cables. Just too many cables. You make too many cables, just think it looks wonderful. I'll do a cable going this way as well. And cool. Now I'm just drawing cables for no reason. But yeah, very quick little sketchiness of Cellar. I'm gonna do a little Cellar. Well, I hope you like this. Hope you enjoy the video, and you all take care. Take care. Bye bye. I don't know, I said it twice. Bye. Oh, 3 times.